What? There it is. Okay. What's up, guys? This is another episode of Off the Post. We have a lot of content for you, so I'm going to try to get to it quick. But as you know, this episode is going to be on the U.S. Women's National Team, NWSL, and we got a few Flash fans down there for a Flash spotlight. I don't expect to get cussed up this week by the Flash fans or anything, so it should be a good week, all right? So I'm pretty happy about it. First, let me introduce you to some of these panelists down here, since you see a lot of, actually it's about 2 new faces. Let's start with the one on the very left. Courtney, tell them who you are, what you like, and what do you do in life?
Wow. So like DJ said, I'm Courtney. I write and I'm a photographer for Final Third Soccer, covering mostly the Flash, hence why I'm on the Flash episode. But national team and some other things as well. Is that good? What else do you want to know?
No, I mean, what is your favorite food or something?
Oh, gosh. I don't know that I have a favorite food, to be honest. Pizza's pretty solid. We'll go with that.
Pizza's pretty solid. All right. Hey, Jackie, tell them who you are, what you do, and what you like.
Well, I'm Jackie, and I'm also a writer for SoccerSTL.net, so check it out. I cover the U.S. team and the NWSL as well. And pizza's also pretty good. So.
Everyone's on this pizza kick right now. All right, Jen Hayes, we're going to start with. See, I'm going to get messed up all episode with this. Jen, welcome back. You have anything to say? You got anything you want to say right now? Nothing yet? Nothing, Jen? We're not going to get anything out of you?
Save it.
Oh, boy. And Jen Carl is here without her car, unfortunately. What's up, Jen? How you been doing lately?
Oh, hanging in. Finals week.
How's the car? That's what we wanted to see. That was the greatest episode ever. You with that car broadcasting.
I know. I should walk outside just to bring it in for a spotlight real fast or something.
Yeah, I really miss it. I already named it and stuff, and we will do something in that car later on down the road. So, guys, tune in for that.
What did you name it?
Irene, is that fine for it?
I can live with that.
Little Debbie, I want to call the car something like it was the best name for it. But all right, guys, let's get to this. As always, if you want to send us any questions, you can send them on Facebook, you can send them on Tumblr, and you can send them on Twitter using the hashtag WoSoTalk. Other than that, I guess we can get going. So where shall we start, girls? You want to start U.S. Women's National Team? I say we should start U.S. Women's National Team. As you know, they had a game yesterday at a pretty late time for me because I'm an old man and bedtime is something I cherish the most. But nonetheless, I braved it and got to see most of the game. It was a pretty good game, actually. We got to see another team score on us. That's something that we usually don't get to see a lot of. So at one point, we thought it was actually going to be a game until the second half happened. Let's start with starting lineups. I guess we'll start with you first, Courtney. What did you think of the starting lineups when you first saw it?
I really liked the starting lineup. I really enjoyed Morgan Bryan being on the outside. I think that typically, we've seen, I guess, in the Algarve and the couple games before that, they put Kirsten Press out there, they put Carly Lloyd on the outside, and I think that Morgan Bryan was a good choice. I think she did really well out there. So it's nice to see somebody else kind of get a shot out there that allows, Kristen Press to be up top, allows Carly Lloyd to be in the center, where she excels. And then, kind of already mentioned it, but I like Kristen Press up top instead of in the midfield. And I think it was clearly a good decision to start LaRue, and she made the most of the opportunity she had to start. So I actually really like that roster, or that lineup.
Jackie, what did you think of it?
I was actually pretty happy with it. I was glad to see LaRue, up top. I think she did really well. I did like Bryan outside on the wing. I think she did a lot of good things. And defense, solid, I guess, besides the one mistake. But that was Hope's fault, so not too much to complain about. But yeah, I liked it. It was different.
We'll start with Jen Hayes. What did you think of the whole Morgan Bryan experiment on the wing? Was it a success to you, or would you had put someone else out there like Heather O'Reilly or Kristen Press again?
Well, Heather O'Reilly wasn't available. She had a hamstring issue, so I think given the lack of options that we had, kind of had to start Morgan Bryan. I was skeptical about it at first, but I thought she did a really good job. It ended up working really well. I thought she had a really strong game.
And Jen Curl, your thoughts on the roster?
I thought it was good. I mean, I said last week, I'll play Carly Lloyd in the central midfield every time. I hate seeing her on the flanks, so it was nice to see her get back in the middle. It's tough because, like, as we saw the game progress, we could see who was and was not on point, and you kind of were like, man, why'd they start them? But then you realize that every other game they've been on point, so it's tough for Jill Ellis to, like, decide who that starting roster is going to be when we have so much versatility, and every match it seems like it changes who's good and who's not. So I think yesterday was probably the best decision she could have made, though not being able to, see the future.
Yeah, and one thing it seems like with all the injuries we keep having, we're kind of being forced into certain lineups, even though it was good to actually see LaRue up top and get a start. I thought that was probably best for her, probably help her confidence more so. Because I was thinking sometimes it's a confidence thing with strikers. She needed to see the ball go in the back of the net a few times, and she got the opportunity to do that. Also, the Morgan Bryant out on the right, I was kind of skeptical about it at first, but it actually really worked out well. I think that's something they should really get to. We'll talk about a little bit later, keeping her out there because of how it works, because you got to put Carly in a natural position, which she can excel at. And with Carly out in the wing, it was just that I'm so glad that experiment's over. That was probably the worst possible thing I could see going for the team. So keep her right where she needs to be, and let's continue, I think, with this Morgan Bryant thing. Try it for the next game. But let's talk about the first half, guys, which we had a ton of chances. It just didn't seem like we could get a lot in the back of the net. We will start with you, Jen Carl. What did you think of the first half?
Santiago's face, man. Santiago's face got so much action in that first half. No, I mean, you're right. We had a whole lot of chances, and we couldn't finish it off for whatever reason. Mexico did play really well, and I think that was part of it. I think the second half, they were tired. So the first half, they kind of laid everything out on the field, and that kind of kept us from opening up the floodgates on them for a while. But it really wasn't even that we were playing badly, because we weren't. Our speed of play was a huge improvement from last week. So I think that was nice. And I think one of the commentators even made the remark that they were playing on grass, and it didn't look like they were playing on grass because they just kept the ball moving. So that was kind of nice to see. But yeah, the first half, I got to give it to Mexico for being able to hang in there the way that they did when we just literally kept pummeling them.
Jackie, what did you think of the first half? Did you like the speed of play too? Because that was a good thing. Yeah, we actually did play faster.
The pace was quicker than last week. Last week was kind of rough to watch. They had more energy, it seemed like, and they kind of played a little more inspired. I don't know why. Maybe it was the lineup changes. I mean, overall, it was just better in the first half than I think. It was probably our best half of soccer, I think, style of play and pace wise the whole year. So, I mean, no complaints, really. So.
Courtney, who stood out to you in that first half?
I think, a lot of different people. I think, we talked about Morgan Bryant. I think she did a lot of good things, on that right side. I think, obviously, Sydney LaRue did well. Kind of unfortunate that second, that time where they probably should have scored when she dribbled around Santiago, but didn't. But I think that I was really impressed with her. I think she's been a lot more composed, where in the past she might have opted to take a quick shot, but she didn't. She controlled the ball more and dribbled it in more. So I was pretty impressed with her. Also, I think, our defense is always pretty solid. And yeah, so for the U.S., that's kind of players I kind of noted for good performance. And again, you mentioned for Mexico, Santiago was outstanding. So good on her.
And Jen, your thoughts on the first half, Jen Hayes?
It was as everyone said, it was much better than what we've seen for most of the year, other than the finishing. And other negative note, the set piece defending was not good. Other than the goal that Mexico scored, there was one few minutes after that Rangel got a shot that just missed that should have been stopped before that. So other than the lack of finishing and the bad set piece defending, I thought the team looked really well.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, guys, they looked really. It was fun to actually see them play with a little bit of speed this time around, and some of the passes that Pino was making was like she was actually playing off people real well, and Morgan Bryan as well. I was just shocked that they didn't score more, to be honest. Like there was one spell where I was digging my hand into my popcorn bag, and I looked up, and it was like 3 or 4 shots in the goal. And I'm like, how did this Santiago or whatever make all these saves or whatever? Like I was like, whoa, it was shocking a bit. But so we got to give her props, but we can also go look back at our finishing again because we need to finish our opportunities whenever we get them because we're going to play tougher teams, and we can't say, oh well. If we don't finish it this time, we'll come back in the second half and beat a team 5 or 6-1 once we get to play tougher opponents. But overall, it was a great half. Other than that, I mean, play stand out like as you guys said earlier. I was happy actually to see, like I said, with press up top more. I wanted to see her do a bit more, I guess you could say, but Sydney really stood out up top. It was good to see her get a goal actually, and it was actually fun for me to actually see us go into a halftime tie for the first time. Actually tied 1-1. Another team having scored on us. Like, now what? Let's see you actually make some changes and come back out and deal all this. So that was good first half. Courtney, what did you think of the second half and the substitutions?
Well, obviously the substitutions. I'll admit, I tweeted about it last night. I was kind of wary about making so many second half substitutions right at the half, but Wambach and Kolupny proved me wrong real quick. Getting that goal set up, about 30 seconds into the second half, I think that they obviously came in and made a difference. And what I like from the second half this time that I don't think we often see is that I feel like in the past when Wambach comes in, it pretty much becomes a game of let's get the long ball, the Wambach's head, and that's kind of the style of play that the U.S. generally goes to, which other teams can pretty much pick apart and know that that's going to be the goal, and kind of can defend to that nature. Granted, Wambach's very, tall, and is obviously really good with her head, so sometimes even then they're still able to score some goals. But what I liked from the second half is that they obviously did try to get the ball to Wambach, and there were some more, set pieces or, crosses to her general area, but they didn't completely abandon the style of play they had in the first half, which was, moving the ball really well, dribbling the ball, down into the attacking third. So for me, I feel like that's kind of, they did a really good job, I guess, combining styles, and it was playing towards Wambach's strengths and integrating her into the play, but also still utilizing what worked well for them in the first half. So I think the subs made a pretty big difference initially right away, and throughout the match, I think they all played fairly well. Obviously, Tobin Heath comes in and does that sick move at the end line to get the ball to Wambach for her goal, or her second goal. So it's good to see subs coming off the bench, and I think overall style of play, second half, nice combination of playing towards Wambach's strengths and sticking with what worked for them in the first half.
That's what I always worry about when she comes in. I just think it's going to end up being a long ball, played to her, and then let her hold it up, and then hopefully somebody makes a run. But actually, like you said, they combining the different styles, that makes you, you want to be like that. You're versatile. The other opponents don't know what to expect. They're not just looking for you to lob and pray, as I called their attack, early on in the Jill Ellis era. So if they continue to do that, they can be a threat, especially if they bring out Wambach as a substitute in second halves in games where they might not have been getting much else or any type of opportunities early on. Second half. Jackie?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, usually when Wambach comes on, it is more direct.
Yeah.
But I think this time they managed to kind of spread the ball around more with, Pino, and Bryan and Kolupny. That was a nice finish by her. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't thrilled with Carly and Holiday in the second half. I didn't think they were really involved that much, and it was kind of a disappointment. But like you said, when Tobin came in, the little snake move to find Abby was great, But it was nice to see us, get 4 goals in the second half. I think it was a confidence builder. So that's all I got to say.
Jen, what did you think of the second half? Oh, yeah, and Jen, I want to ask you this, Jen Hayes. Actually, are you a Kolupny fan? Yes, no?
Do what?
Are you a Lori Kolupny fan?
I like Lori Klubney as a midfielder. I don't know if she has the speed to play at the left back position.
Right.
I think the game has just gotten too fast for her at that position. Because when she played it before, she was amazing before all the concussion issues. I just think it's gotten so fast in the last few years. I just don't think you can keep up with the top teams in the world.
Yeah, I was thinking after that goal, we were going to see a lot of the people that come to her aid saying, and that's why she should be starting at left back or something. And I was just like, well, I won't probably check Twitter later then. Jen Hayes, your thoughts in the second half, I believe. Did I ask you? No, I didn't.
No, you asked me about Klubney. You didn't ask me about the second half.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk about the second half, you can too, Carl. God, I'm getting them mixed up. I was pressed on. I knew this was going to happen. Go, Greenwall Hayes or Greenwall Gian. What were your thoughts in the second half?
Now I'm going to agree with Jackie on Holiday and Lloyd. I think they were kind of disappointing in the second half. I don't think Holiday coming off was a planned sub. I think what was it right before during Wambach's goal, she kind of took a hard knock, and that's why he came in. But yeah, it's like as the second half wore on, you saw Lloyd start to fade. Wasn't really as involved as she was offensively. Was still doing defensive work, but just kind of there. Didn't really stand out.
And Jen Carl, your thoughts on the second half?
Yeah, I guess for me, like something interesting happened. We saw both Wambach and Rampone come on, and all of a sudden it seemed like the entire team kind of got lifted up. And I think they have that effect when you get, Wambach, Rampone, even Megan Rapinoe, all on the field at the same time. Something happens to that national team, and they just fall back into a groove that we obviously saw what happened. Floodgates got opened, and it became a slaughter fest in the second half. So I think them not playing the long ball to Abby was good, but at the same point, like just having Abby on the field, just having Rampone on the field, that always seems to make a difference to them, and that's going to be really interesting considering this is probably the last World Cup for some of these players. And as far as Tobin Heath, everybody on Facebook knows exactly how I feel about Tobin Heath, so I'm going to leave that one alone and just say that I've stood by Tobin Heath through all of the hate she has dealt with over the past couple of months. So I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Ooh, okay. Well.
And that was my thoughts on the second half.
Things have just gotten intense here. My, I'm going to leave that at the end. Jeez. Goodness. Overall, guys, like I said, I enjoyed the whole game. It's good to see the substitutes. Like I said, got to see Tobin Heath. Like I said, we remember that she actually plays for the team. I forget from time to time how much they play her. Forgot about O'Hara, too, but it's good to see her get subbed in a bit. It's like you said, something about Rampone and Abby when they come out there. I guess they get that whole feeling of just, I don't know, they lift the team a bit, so they do play a bit different. You can just see it in their spirits all the time. And with Pino and them, just something about that whole chemistry of all of them out there together and just the connection. And even if they're not passed to each other, it's something about them playing together on the field that raises the side. But it was good to actually see us against a better opponent than last week or last time, where it was Ireland, who basically had none of their original starters. It was like 17-year-old kids running off the benches or from the stands playing that were Irish and stuff. So, hopefully the game next week against Korea Republic will be a little bit better because they're at least ranked, I believe. They're an 18th ranked team. But one thing I'm kind of worried about is these slow starts against all of these sides. So against the Korea Republic, I would like to see us start faster. When it comes to the lineups, I would also like to actually see this lineup again. Let's play them again. Brian did a good job out the right flank, so let's try her out there again. And please just do not put Carly out there. It's nothing against Carly, but at that position, it's something against her. I personally don't want her at that position. And other than that, like I said, we see it looks like the defense looks like they're pretty much set. We will go back with you, Jen. Carl, what do you want to see next game?
Oh, man. I'm biased. I'm going to be at that game. So, I'd love to see us just score goals nonstop. But, I really did like the speed of play in this game, so I'd like to keep that up. I agree that Harley Lloyd she just should not play a flank. I adore Carly Lloyd, but she needs to stay central. When Holiday's on point, she's great central too. So I think keeping those two in the middle is a good idea. Morgan Bryan on the one flank, and I'd go either Pino or Tobin on the other flank, I think. And it was mentioned earlier that our defense, the biggest break in our defense was Hope Solo. So she just needs to, I think, find her comfort again. She was out for a few months, as we all know, for various reasons. So I think once she fully builds her confidence back up, which I think she's probably like 85% of the way there, I think once she gets that squared away a little bit, she'll be back on point and won't make decisions like the ones she made. So I think it's just kind of getting all of the pieces to click together at this point.
Hope probably just doesn't see enough action.
Yeah.
Jen, Hayes, your thoughts on what you want to see next game?
More of the same, same speed of play. I'd also like to see a better game from Julie Johnson. I think this was the first time since she came into the lineup at the Algarve Cup where she looked inexperienced. Not that she had a bad game, it was just a rough game.
Okay. Jackie, what would you want to see next game?
I would like to see Pino and Tobin start on the flanks. And I would actually kind of want Lloyd and Bryan in the middle. Although, I mean, I love Holiday, but I don't know what that would do to her confidence as well. So maybe keep her in the middle or not. But I do want to see Bryan maybe in the middle a little more. But she did play well on the flank. And as far as defense, yeah, I agree with the Julie Johnston point. She was exposed a little bit, but I mean, it wasn't anything major. But again, Mexico's not, a top 5, top 10 team, so we can't really go based off of that. But I don't know. I would like to see at least like 7 or 8 goals, just to give my confidence a little more. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but. Yeah, and I think as far as Hope, I think she just needs to stay focused. So, yeah.
It gets boring back there swatting flies. Courtney, what would you want to see next game?
To be honest, I would really like to see the same lineup. I think it would be worth it to give it another shot. Who knows, though? I believe that Amy Rodriguez was not available last night. I think she had an illness or something like that. So it would be interesting to see if Ellis put the same roster out, or if she perhaps, put Rodriguez up front, maybe, potentially moving Press back to the outside, which I don't think is a good idea because, again, she didn't do much last night, but Kristen Press has been proven from that forward position. So I would just like to see the same lineup, same style of play really worked well for them. We need to get a little bit more creative or just better placement with shots. A lot of times last night they shot right at the goalkeeper or right at a defender. And obviously, you're not going to score goals if you're doing that. So I'd like to see the same roster. No, don't change too many things. Just work on finishing. And as far as Hope Solo goes, I think that a lot of that is potentially she hasn't seen a lot of action lately. So I'm actually kind of glad that Mexico tested her a little bit more than she's been tested before. And not that I'm happy that Mexico scored on the U.S., but perhaps that was also kind of a good thing to have happen, just to kind of challenge her. She hasn't really been challenged very often. So like I said, I don't ever like to see anyone score on the U.S., but from not having much action to kind of realizing, especially it was it was her mistake pretty much that contributed to the goal. So I really think that moving forward, she's starting to get some of that confidence back, and she's starting to be tested more and kind of can learn from, that experience.
Good. Well, that's all the panelists had to say about the U.S. Women's National Team. Let's move to the NWSL, one of your favorite things right now. Well, we had a lot of action this week, and we had one stream that wasn't a stream at all. So Jen Carl will talk about that. I guess we should talk about that game first, since we'll call this a Jen Carl moment. What happened with the Washington Spirit Sky Blue game? Because I didn't see it. Did any of you guys see it?
I did.
Tell us what happened.
Yeah, that was, I wish you guys would have seen it, because just reading the recaps of it does not do it justice at all. And it will come up. It will come up. We had a Spirit crew member there recording it, so it'll be up like this week or something. We just had issues that prevented the live stream. Sorry. But yeah, the first half, actually the entire game, excluding stoppage, was really even. And I think part of that was playing conditions. We just had a really, really nasty storm. We started late. I think it was like 7:25 that we started. So it was a rough storm. We had tents blowing over things. We actually had a sandbag fly into a tree, so that was fun. Yeah, it was a good time. So our field was naturally saturated, and you could tell. Like, the players were out there basically on a slip and slide. So I think that really played against both teams. There were a lot of chances for both teams. Sky Blue actually had a lot more set pieces. Washington just couldn't. I don't know what they were doing out there, but the final stat for that, I think, was like 21 shots on goal for Sky Blue to like 6 from Washington. So it was actually really unbalanced. But Sky Blue just couldn't convert anything. Nadia Nadim was threatening the entire match and just couldn't get it in for whatever reason. Kelsey Weiss had another fantastic game. She has been on point the past couple of weeks. Estelle Johnson actually was a standout player for me this week. She had fantastic defending on the side. Corey Hester had one great save that I can remember. Yeah.
Do you have any good news about what Sky Blue did? I need some good Sky Blue news. Anything good happened with Sky Blue?
Yeah, not really. I mean, nothing good really happened for either team. That was the problem. Like I said, our field was just saturated, and it was throwing everybody off. I was actually really impressed by Maya Hayes. Maya Hayes was just phenomenal that entire game. It was like she was trying to be all 11 players for Sky Blue simultaneously, and for a while she did a really good job of it. She just opened up the field a little bit more for Sky Blue, managed to get some shots through. They couldn't convert anything, but neither could Washington. So, I mean, we were both stuck until stoppage time, and, you know, I've said from the beginning, you got to watch that combo of Franny Ordega and Crystal Dunn up top, and sure enough, like 20 seconds before the final whistle blew, here they go up front, and Crystal Dunn got the assist in, Ordega finished it off, and Washington ended up with the goal to win the match. But it was pretty even as far as, you know, I guess just the players not being able to convert. But like I said, I mean, it was really the fact that Sky Blue outshot us like 21-6. I mean, that kind of tells you they had issues finishing. And I can't even tell you why, because Nadim was right up front. She was right up front in front of the goal like most of the time. And I think I was telling you, DJ, the other day that there was one point where Nadia Nadim was up front. There was nobody else up there. It was just her and Kelsey Weiss. And the ball was just rolling dead in front of her. And she didn't do anything to get that in there. So I don't know what was up, but neither team really played their best game.
All right, let me give you my review of this game now. Being as how I'm a new Sky Blue supporter, I'm going to tell you what actually happened. I feel like it was a setup. I feel like you guys did the stream on purpose. They cheated us. We should have won the game. I'm not happy about any of this news, and we're going to move on. I don't want to hear anything else about this game ever again. I'm not watching that little stream that they made of it or whatever that they're going to put up. You can take it and throw away and burn it, because that's what I'm going to do if I get to see it. Moving on.
What actually happened was that it ended 6-0. Joanna Lohman scored all the goals.
All right, enough of that, since I've been a depressed Sky Blue supporter since day one now. Huh? Thanks a lot, fans, for picking that team for it. I appreciate it. Let's move on to the Houston Dash versus Chicago Red Stars. As to me, this was a game where it was almost contrasting styles a little bit, so to speak, at first. Well, that's what it looked like, because Houston likes to play that little fast 4-3-3. Chicago's a bit more of a physical team. It seems like they'll play with possession, so it's a real good game to watch. Let's start with you, Courtney. What did you think of the Chicago Red Stars and Houston Dash game?
I thought it was a great game, actually. It was really good to see Brittany Bach finally come back and be in the starting lineup. I know everyone, including herself, probably thought it took a little bit longer than expected for her to come back, but it was great to see her back lineup. And she actually had a couple of good chances. At least one header that just went over the bar, maybe another chance later in the game, later in the first half. But it was good to see her back. The Dash also saw they traded actually Nick the Flash for defender Tony Presley, who also started despite having just joined the team. They really needed some help on the back line. So, and she actually played really well. I know some people have differing opinions on her sometimes, but I think she was pretty solid in her first start for the Dash, which is great. Waldron also kind of changed his lineup a little bit. He had, Henderson and McCarty, both are usually forwards for the Dash in the midfield. So that's also kind of interesting. It worked out pretty well. Henderson was a key component on one of the Dash goals, on Ohio's goal. So that was pretty cool also. Another notable player for the Dash, Jen LaPont, she was a amateur who made her debut and was just tearing up, the right side. Played good balls in, it was really great, kind of on both sides of the ball. And then, second half, Chicago kind of, made a bit of a comeback, created some more chances. Ohio for the Dash had a great goal, and then, Sofia Huerta, second brace in 2 games. So she's just been a really good player for Chicago and has proven so in the last 2 weeks that she's a really good asset to the team. And overall, I think it was a really, entertaining. I really enjoyed watching the match. I think both teams played really well. Yeah, it was great. Good, solid match.
Yeah, she's on fire so far, Huerta. Jackie, what have you thought of Houston so far this year?
Well, this is my favorite match to watch out of all the games this weekend. Houston, it was good to see Bach back, and Ohio, had a great game, and Rachel Axon with the PK. I don't know. I think they're impressive on paper for the most part, but then they're a little inconsistent. But this was for me their best game of the year, even though Chicago did score, 2 of the goals in the half. But overall, I think it was a good game for them.
Jen Hayes?
Okay, don't get mad at me for doing this because I promised somebody on one of the chats that I would do this, but finally the Bach has come back to Houston.
You're going to get us cut off. Continue.
I'm sorry, I promised somebody that I would do that. But anyway, yeah. No, I think Houston was the better team in the first half. I thought they controlled the ball. I thought Axon's PK was placed perfectly. I think once Bach had to be subbed out, I think that's when Chicago took over. They did give up the counterattack goal to Ohio, but then after that, I really think they ultimately should have won that game and were a bit unlucky not to. But yeah, good solid 45 from Brittany Bach. Tony Presley had a good game, shockingly. I'm not a Tony Presley fan. I was happy when the Flash traded her away.
Well, you told how you felt. Jen Carl, tell us what you thought of the game.
The biggest thing for me was just the addition of Jen LaPont over on the right side.
She was good. Because
that moved Ella Masser over to the left side. And I actually kind of like that. I like that dynamic of having Ella Masser over to the left. She seemed oddly comfortable there. And Jen LaPont was just ridiculous. I think she was hungry because, it's her first match. She was an amateur call-up. So I think she was just hungry and just kept pushing forward. So she was impressive pretty much the entire game. Other than that, Ohio impresses me every game. So, but I think Gilliland she gave away that goal when she fouled Ohio. It was justified for Rachel Axon to take that PK in the first place, which I hate to see that. I hate to see goals just given up like that. So for me, that was a little bit disappointing. But other than that, I mean, basically what everyone else says has been right. Houston did have a better first half, and then Chicago just came in and tore them up the second half. You can't give Huerta that many chances.
Yeah, and like you guys kept saying about Chicago in that second half, they just start pushing numbers forward, it looks like. You just seen so many of their players move going forward and help. And they're going to get a goal sooner or later. And, I mean, as you said, Jackie, Houston, they look so good on paper. Even without their national teams, they look pretty solid, like they should be able to still score goals. And, like I said, I love their style. I love what he's done with the team. And LaPontaine, she did really well in defense. I thought she had an outstanding game, just stood out for me. They held strong in the first half. It was just that second half they couldn't stop the Chicago Red Stars attack, and it ended up biting them in the butt. But I mean, Chicago's a good team this year, so we should always expect them to be able to overcome a lot of situations they've been in. But yeah, I don't know. Houston, they're weird to me. It's like, well, maybe if they can find some wins until the national team members come back, then they can make that push. I still see them maybe fighting for that playoff spot and getting in there somehow, but right now they're not doing it. So we'll see how they are the rest of the season as it goes forward. Moving forward, we can talk about the most exciting game of the week, the Boston Breakers versus Portland Thorns game, right? No? We'll start with you, G and Carl. What did you think of the Boston Breakers versus Portland Thorns game?
It was a weird game for me. Like, Allie Long, what does she forget what team she's playing for? Like, she's offside so often that I feel like she just thought she was part of Boston, and that killed him. That killed him. I think she had like 8 offsides calls against her. That can't happen. And she's such a good player. Her and Mana Shim, they're the Portland equivalent of my Franny Ordega and Crystal Dunn. You got 2 of them in there, and it's phenomenal. But you can't be getting 8 offsides calls. That's going to kill you. But I think, honestly, what ultimately cost Portland that match was the fact that Betos collided with Maddie Evans, and she really couldn't do anything except watch that ball from US go in. So that stumble, I think, cost Portland the game. But, I mean, they were pretty evenly matched. Portland, the defense kept a really good job of holding off Boston up until stoppage time. There seemed to be a lot of stoppage time action this week. So I think it was just that one stumble that Muse took advantage of. Yeah,
as you were saying about Allie Long, there was one point where she was offside. So it was like the ball just hit her, and it was just like, well, what were you doing in that offsides position to begin with? That really hurt them. And then Mana Shim was kind of in effect. They really didn't combine as much as they have been earlier, Mana and Allie. So the team, without those 2 going, you're not going to get anything. And that's what really happened for them. Jen Hayes, what did you think?
I saw something I never thought I'd see, a good Boston defense. That entire back line was outstanding.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kept Portland at bay. I don't think Kendall Johnson touched the ball maybe 4 or 5 times for Portland, and she's been one of their more underrated players. I do question how Allie Long kept getting offside. I don't think all of those were her fault. I think she was getting into good positions, and then somebody would make a pass at the wrong time, and there's an offside.
Jackie, what did you think of the game?
Honestly, not much. It was pretty disappointing. But for Boston, they've only scored, 5 goals in 5 games, so, I mean, I don't know. I guess Portland, missed their opportunity to really get a win, and I mean, good for Boston, but not much,
And Courtney.
Kind of echo that. I wasn't super impressed with either team. I will agree that the Boston defense was pretty solid, probably more solid than they've been this season, but not really much happening from either side. Long amount of ship in past weeks for Portland have been very key in making things happen, and neither one of them really were effective. And I think, I will say good on Chrissy Mewis for getting that goal in stoppage time. She had a couple chances earlier in the game. It's tough. I agree. Betos kind of got caught colliding with Evans, but good looks on Mewis to kind of see that she was out and wasn't going to be able to really get back, and just kind of lofting it right over and into the goal. So kind of uneventful match, but good good looks, and I'm glad that US finally got that goal. She'd kind of been looking for it most of the game.
For me, who stood out that game was actually a defender, to be honest. King for Boston. It looked like she had Ione in her pocket. I mean, she was stopping all the service that all the Portland players were getting when they were going up front. King was cutting off everything. She almost had a world-class type game, it looked like, out there. It was amazing watching her. She, by far, I was like, that's the woman of the match for me. I just couldn't believe how good she was. Maybe it's, it was just for a game, or maybe, because I've seen other Boston matches, and people haven't stood out like that, but she just stood out every ball. She was cutting off. So King had an amazing game for me. But other than that, it wasn't really eventful. That Mule's goal, I was like, it's kind of like cheap. So it was just like, it was good. It was a nice little, nice finish and all, but it was just like, I guess that's how a game like that would finish, but I didn't think really either team deserved much out of it. So good for Boston to get the 3 points. They got to take what they can get at this point right now where they're sitting at. So moving on, I guess we'll talk about, your favorite team is the Flash. Hey, they played in the most exciting game of the week with tons of goals scored. Right? Why is there, Courtney? Tell us what happened with the Kansas City game versus Flash.
Tons of yellow cards, no goals. Completely different game from, granted, you remember this is the second time they played each other within a week period. They played them last Friday or 2 Fridays ago in Rochester, and it was such a very different game. That game in Rochester, the Flash came out full force and were just relentlessly attacking Kansas City's goal, unable to convert, but it was very, pretty even this match. Kind of a lot going on. We had a lot of different things happening. D'Angelo getting injured 15 minutes in. We haven't really had an update on, what's going on with her. You kind of see it was a shoulder injury, but I think Jones came in and, did a really solid job, which is, what Chantel Jones does. The Flash are very fortunate to have 2 quality goalkeepers, on their roster. But I think, for that game, it was kind of both teams had good chances. Both goalkeepers, Caitlin Rowland started for Kansas City. They gave Nicole Barnhart a break this week, and she made some great saves also. So, I wouldn't say either team had terrible games. They both had times where they played well, just didn't make it happen. The, chippiness and roughness of that game was really kind of what probably sticks out for people more than the actual gameplay. I think there were something like 8 yellow cards. I think the Flash had 5 yellow cards. And then, of course, if you want to talk about controversial moments, a lot of people, Shea Groom came in, people would argue late on Chantel Jones. She had already been on a yellow card, wasn't given a second yellow card, despite that being kind of a late tackle. And then Chantel Jones just kind of swatted at her, knocked her down, something like that. A lot of people think that should have been a red card also. She got off with a yellow, but I don't want to say that was the most exciting moment of the game. That's definitely what people are probably talking about more than performances. But overall, it was kind of ugly, a lot of fouls. But play-wise, both teams, didn't have a bad match, but just kind of a lot of other things going on there.
Do you think Shea Groom deserved a red card?
I think, just being already on a yellow card, I think that it was questionable, and I think it would have been justified if she had been given a second yellow card and subsequently sent off. I don't think it was anything malicious, but I do think her tackle was a little bit late, and the fact that Jones was already on the ground with the ball. But that's just my opinion. I'm not qualified for refereeing, but I think it could have gone either way. But I do think it's possible that, it would have been justified had she been shown a second yellow. I think it would have been justified if they had shown Jones a red too, and it's hard to tell if, the fact that Jones is the backup keeper who entered the game. It's hard to tell if that played on the official's mind at all because, what happens if Jones gets sent off? They got to stick a field player in there. So, it's hard to tell kind of what's going on, but I think either one of those calls could have gone, the other way.
Yeah. Jen Hayes, do you think it should have been a red card?
Yes, both players absolutely deserved a red card for their challenge. Groom the second yellow, Chantel the straight red. I do think absolutely they both should have been sent off. I do think it was referee saying, "Oh, they only have one keeper left, not send her off," and so yeah, I can see why they weren't given it, but I do think they both did deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Carl, what did you make of the match? Was it pretty uneventful for the most part?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of players that kind of stood out. Becca Morris over on Kansas City, she kind of stood out to me a little bit. D'Angelo, when D'Angelo went down, that had to be a horrifying moment for the Flash players, the Flash fans. You know, you don't want to see D'Angelo go down. She's been so phenomenal the past couple of weeks. But I think the most entertaining, I guess, would be the proper word. Part of the match for me was watching. It was somewhere in the first half. There was a crossover to Jasmine Spencer. I love Jasmine Spencer. I adore that woman. She's a fellow Maryland Terrapin, so I will rep Jasmine Spencer every day. But that girl is 5'1". Like, if you're gonna play across to Jasmine Spencer, don't put it so high in the air that she jumps as high as she can, and it's still 5 feet above her head. So, you know, things like that. I think the Flash, if they could just clean up some stuff like that, I think they wouldn't be at the bottom of the table right now. But that comes with experience. I mean, there are a lot of new faces on that team, so hopefully they can pull it together and maybe bump themselves up a little bit further on in the season.
And Jackie, what did you make of the game, if anything at all?
Well, for me, like Houston, KC are impressive on paper, but I don't know, it wasn't that great of a game for either team. And the Flash are actually my dark horse to get like maybe 5th place this season. So disappointing to not get a result against a team in KC that was kind of didn't really seem that interested in being there. So I mean, it was good to see a physical match, no doubt, but yeah, overall, just not really that exciting for me.
And I think you just made a ton of new Flash friends right now, so your mentions are going to be getting blown up on Twitter. Other than that, like you say, it really wasn't that eventful of a game. I felt like a lot of the time, a lot of the crosses ended up in the keeper's hands and they found any heads or legs or anything, so it was what it was. I mean, it's so weird to think, though, that because FC Kansas City, like you said, looks so good on paper, and the Western New York Flash gives them so much trouble, it appears. Because at home, they really gave them trouble, but then when they went down to Kansas City, it seemed like the game was evenly matched. Because as much as possession that FC Kansas City had, the Western New York Flash still had a lot of scary moments where they could have scored too. So overall, the teams look about almost even, really, it looks like a lot of time. Next week games, you guys, you can look forward to. Friday, Boston Breakers versus Sky Blue. Yeah, we're going to win, hopefully. We got to win. Oh, we're not going to win. Saturday, Western New York Flash versus Washington Spirit. I know that you'll be watching that, Jen Curl, and the Flash girls will be watching that, so you guys can be enemies for that one. Kansas City will play the Chicago Red Stars. That should be a good one to watch, hopefully. And that's going to be at 8 p.m. The other game's at 7 p.m., the Flash Spirit game. And then the late-night game that I'm probably going to be asleep for, the Portland game versus the Houston Dash. So we'll see how Portland rebounds from their game and Houston rebounds from theirs. And that's going to be at 10 p.m. Moving forward, guys, let's jump into this Flash Spotlight. As you know, I usually do the history for the team, and then I let the supporters down there tell a little bit about their supporter groups or talk about something of why they like the team. Let me get started with this, and then we can move on. 2009, Buffalo Flash made its debut in the Great Lakes, formerly Northern Division of the Central Conference, lining up against teams from Hamilton, Laval, and a few other Canadian cities. It finished second with a regular season record of 9-2-3 from their 14 matches. The team made plans to move to women's professional soccer for the 2011 season. The Flash selected Alex Morgan with the first pick in the 2011 WPS draft on January 25th, 2011. The Flash also signed 2009-2010 WPS MVP and WPS Golden Boot winner Marta. You all may know her from Brazil. With a 13-2-3 regular season record, the Flash earned the regular season title and the right to host the WPS Championship presented by City. Oh, man, we just gave them a little boost. On August 27, 2011, Western New York Flash capped their inaugural season in WPS by capturing the 2011 WPS Championship title on penalties, 5-4. in front of the largest crowd in league history. It was announced the WPS had suspended its 2012 season, but the Flash continued playing. Shortly thereafter, they joined the Women's Premier Soccer League and made the playoff, won the championship in penalty kicks again. It seems to be a common theme. Then they joined the newly formed in November 2013, and they would be the first regular season champion, but they would make it to the final to lose to Portland 2-0, as we all remember. Flash supporters, who are they? Well, I see one over on the far left. Let's ask Courtney. Who are the Flash supporters, and tell us about your supporter groups.
Well, I think, pretty sure they're official now, but the Western New York Flash Mob is kind of the first group that formed at the start of the NWSL. First year weren't really too active. Last year became a lot more active, and then this year they're got a lot more drummers going on this year, but they put a lot of work into trying to support the team. They have a banner for pretty much every player that's on the field. They hang them up in their supporter section every game. They've got a lot of drums and chants going on, and they usually do a player of the match. They'll award the player of the match afterwards some sort of. Last year was T-shirts, I believe. This year they were doing kind of like pictures, things like that. So they're loud, doing the cheering thing, making banners, trying to support the best they can. And then actually, like I said, there's this official supporters group, and then this year kind of other people putting together another supporters group called the Western New York Flashers, which people might not be too aware of, but they're another supporters group who they're trying to get together some T-shirts, things like that. So I would say look out from both groups to see kind of what else they do throughout the rest of the season.
All right, guys, so make sure when you're in Western New York, look out for flashers. Jen Hayes, why are you people are supposed to laugh at that, man. Come on now. Jen Hayes, my bad.
It went right over my head.
It was like I was seeing it set up and it just didn't roll out. Everyone was just like, whatever, I'm reading my notes. Man, skip you guys. Jen, why are you a supporter of Western New York Flash?
I started out becoming a supporter of the Flash because we had Carly Lloyd allocated to us, and 20 minutes into game one, it was no longer about because she was there, because this was the team I wanted to support.
All right, well, that's a good reason. I was about to say that you could quit the team.
Wins, losses, whatever, I'm still behind them 100%.
Well, you could become a Houston fan. They would like you too, right?
Oh, no. I don't jump teams. I don't do that.
Good stuff. I don't either, unfortunately, Sky Blue. Moving on. I'm just going to mess with them all season. It's fun, too. They understand. They didn't understand I love them, though. Team's overall performance last year, 8-12-4. They ended up with 28 points. Courtney, what did you make of last season for your team?
Last year was not a good year for the Flash. It was the first time that they had not finished regular season at the top of the league, pretty much since they've been a team. So that was certainly disappointing. Not really sure what happened. They had a lot of the same personnel that had been there previously. Some changes. They did have some goalkeeping woes throughout the season. AD Branch during preseason tore ACL, out for the season. They brought in
Williams.
Yes, thank you. They brought in another goalkeeper, and then she tore ACL fairly early in the season, so that's where Kelsey Weiss kind of got thrown into the madness. As a first.
Instead, did you just go silent? Can anyone hear Courtney?
No.
Okay,
No.
so it didn't go awkward for me. All right, Jackie, what did you think while Courtney decided she doesn't want to talk anymore?
Well, they finished 7th, in the league, so for me it was just inconsistent. That's the one word I would use, and there's really not much to say. They weren't that exciting, and
Yeah.
it was a mystery of a season. They have a lot of the big names, but it was tough with the goalkeeping situations. But yeah, it's inconsistent for me.
Yeah, it was weird for me. When the games I would see them, it seemed like when Abby was out, they played better. They just played a lot faster, and they weren't trying to always get it to her and play through her. They were just a lot of players were actually shooting forward, and they played a different style, and it seemed like it was better for them when she was out. So it was like two different teams, one with Abby and one without her. So they was very inconsistent, correct? Jen Hayes, what you think of your team last year?
7th place is unacceptable. When you are an organization that has a winning tradition like the Flash, finishing that low in the standings it can't happen. So I knew going into the off season there'd be some changes made. I can't really point my finger on what exactly caused them to not play so well. I don't know if it was injuries, team not being cohesive, maybe the core had been there too long. So yeah, it was a disappointing season.
And Jen, Carl, what did you think of the Flash this season?
Yeah, I gotta echo Jackie. It was just really, really inconsistent. I think injuries played a big part of that. But the other piece is they weren't connecting for whatever reason. So they did end up 7th at the bottom of the table. They're at the bottom of the table now. But I think they still have time to turn it around. The goalkeeper situation was unfortunate. I can't really say too much about that because Kelsey Weiss has been amazing for us. Maybe she just needed to get out of New York. I don't know. But, it really was just a really inconsistent season for them. And it was depressing for Flash fans, I'm sure, but it was kind of depressing for the rest of us who were just fans of the league, too.
Yeah, it was real inconsistent. I mean, we got to see Carly Lloyd really be a leader of that team during that time last year where Abby was out. She really took over and tried to win as many games as possible by herself. There's only so much she could do. The inconsistency really played a part. I mean, I think if the whole keeper, the constant injuries like that, something like that, that's hard for any team to come back from. So they did the best that they could with the situation they were put in. So moving forward, before we can talk about the loss of Carly and Abby Wambach, we'll start with you, Jen Hayes. How big of a loss was that, or do you think it will help the team in the long run by actually trading them?
I don't think Abby was as much of a loss as her reputation would say. I just don't think she fit in with the team. I think she was a bad presence. I think after they lost to Washington, the first loss to Washington, she was going on the record calling out teammates by name in the media. You just don't do that. And then, she's the first choice captain. She acted like she'd rather be anywhere other than Rochester. So I don't think she's a big loss. Carly Lloyd is a big, big loss. I think there were times where it was like you had 10 other players on the field and then them all waiting for Carly to do something and try to lift them up. So on that hand, she's a loss. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, we don't have that crutch anymore. And it's up to us. What can we do?
Jen Carl, what did you think of Abby and Carly being traded?
Yeah, Abby's kind of the hometown hero of the Flash, unfortunately. She's a Rochester girl. So I think it was a bigger loss for the fans than it was for the team, to be honest, if that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. But I kind of agree that Carly Lloyd was a bigger loss for the team just because she brings so much leadership, she brings so much experience, and she brings so much tenacity to the field every time she plays. But through that, they did gain Sydney LaRue, who, let's be honest, wasn't exactly thrilled to get traded to Western New York in the beginning. And they also got Whitney Engen out of the deal, and I think those two, once they come back from the World Cup, are kind of going to step forward into the positions that no one can really take Carly Lloyd's position field-wise. But Sydney LaRue, I think, will step forward into the role that Abby kind of had, and Whitney Engen will be great for the defense. So I think it was time, at least maybe for Abby to go. Carly maybe could have stayed a little bit longer, but something that Jen Hayes brought up earlier is that maybe the core was just there too long. So I don't necessarily think either one was a bad move.
Hey DJ, I just want to let you know that I made it back. We lost power, but I made it back.
Oh no.
What are you on, like a generator or something right now? Or?
No, I don't know. Sometimes the Wi-Fi, like the router, kicks back on. I guess the emergency generator powers the Wi-Fi. So I'm in the dark, but I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. I don't know. It happens sometimes, but I'm back.
So obviously she's a liar. But moving forward, Courtney, what do you think of Carly Lloyd and Abby Wambach? Since you might as well ask, I might as well ask you a few questions since you're here in the dark. What do you think of their trade?
I mean, they played a lot of the season without Abby Wambach last year. She was injured and missed a lot of the season, and so granted they didn't really have a great season, and I'm not sure how much of that contributed. A little bit surprised. I know there's been a lot of discussion about her decision not to play. I think honestly probably losing Carly Lloyd is a little bit more of a blow for them than Wambach, again, because she was out most of last season. And Carly Lloyd was the captain last year and really took over she brought a lot of leadership and experience to some of the younger players on the team, some of the newer players on the team. So I think obviously losing both of them hurts, one more than the other in my opinion, but they got a lot of new faces and they were able to get Engen back and then ultimately, LaRue as well. So they only played a couple games for the Flash before they had to go on national team duty. But I think, getting those players is going to be helpful also because it provides some more, veteran leadership and experience to a very, very young Flash team.
And Jackie, what do you think of the loss of those two?
Well, I agree with what everyone was saying. I think it was Wambach's time to she needed to get out of there. It was just she needed a fresh start, and Lloyd was the bigger loss. Lloyd has this mentality that I don't think is matched in any other player that I've seen. She's a winner, and she, like you said, she brings that tenacity, and she's a big loss. I think if they would have kept her, they have LaRue, Engen, Mewis, Taylor. I think they could have been a top 4 or 5 team this season. But like I said, they're still one of my favorite teams to watch. They're kind of a mystery, but they're still fun to watch in some ways. And LaRue does bring that pace, up top. And I think after the World Cup, they'll do better than I think the fans might expect. But it'll definitely be interesting moving forward.
Oh yeah, and by the way, I seen that the Western New York Flashers are happy for the shout out. Thanks for actually RTing and telling people to watch. If anyone has any questions, once again on Twitter, use the hashtag WolfSoTalk and we'll answer your questions on air. I agree with everything you said, Jackie. By the way, sorry about that. I was just checking the Twitter real quick. Yeah, this team though, like you said, with the loss of them, it was. I feel like it was more of a loss of Carly more than Abby, but these young players now get to step into these roles and maybe play more than they ever would have played if those two weren't gone. And we're getting to see a lot more players like Sam Mewis step up and do things in the midfield and stuff like that. And I'm happy to see her play. She's actually looked really good. We'll talk about that a bit more. And all these other rookies get to start. But, I mean, even with those two gone, their main problem, it seemed like last year, they let up on. Actually, it was the goals scored of what they lost. They lost 37 goals out of 42 goals scored. So they lost a ton of offense with those two. So as much as we probably didn't even like Abby, she contributed into, some of the goals and then other people that are left out. So it's a loss, but not really a loss. I think they're going to play faster. That's one thing I like about them now too. They're playing a lot faster. Let's talk about some players who performed well, and I guess some players that didn't really perform well. With all the turnover and stuff, it might not be a lot to look at. So we can talk about players this year that are performing well. Courtney, who are some players that are standing out to you this year, or even from last year?
Honestly, I think there's very few players that I think are not really performing well. Like you said, Sam Mewis has been amazing. Becky Edwards has been solid also. I think Kristen Edmonds, was one of the few returners from last season, has been playing really solid matches. A lot of the rookies, there's so many rookies on that team and young players, and I think they've all done really well. So far this season, I think they're very fast. They're extremely fast, and their forwards are so speedy. And they recently just signed Jamia Fields, also, who If anyone watched the Women's College Cup, scored the game-winning goal for Florida State to help them win the NCAA championship. And she came in, first game and just made a huge difference. So I would say most of the players are probably playing really well. And not to kind of go off topic, but I just want to, I guess, throw out there, my Twitter just kind of went off. They have an update about Sabrina D'Angelo, her injury, and it says she's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
Just wanted to throw that in there while talking about people. I just saw it pop up on my phone as we were going through here, so it might be another talking point later. But I think everyone pretty much has performed. I would say D'Angelo also, stand out. Absolutely been killing it, even when they lost. I think it was like 5-1, 4-1 to Seattle week 1. D'Angelo was outstanding. So not too many people, I think, haven't been performing well. I think there's a very young team. It's going to take them some time to, score the goals and things like that. But I think overall, a lot of really good performances.
Yeah, Edmonds, I remember even you posted something. She's been my favorite player at right back. She's been absolutely amazing. And I feel like it's one of those positions because she's a defensive player. A lot of people won't pay her much mind, things she does. But if you actually watch her, just focus on a right back one game. You'll see she's amazing. She's been great for you guys. Jackie, what have you thought of some players that have stood out this year or last year for Western New York Flash? Jeez, I said everybody but them. Sorry.
For me, like you guys said, Mewis has been a fantastic, I think, player, and they're a really, young and I think inexperienced team. I'm glad they got Engen. I think Engen will help the back line especially, and Edwards has been nice too. So I mean, like I said, I think their future is exciting if they can keep those 4 or 5 players for next season. So.
Jen Hayes.
Well, first of all, a huge sigh of relief that injury is only a 2 to 4 week injury and not more serious, because I was kind of on pins and needles about that. Yeah, I mean, like Courtney said, there are very few players that haven't performed well. I would think probably the one that I've been kind of disappointed with is Camilla Kerr. Played that first half in Seattle and didn't really do a whole lot. But other than that, you pick a name, they've done well. Just results haven't been coming our way yet.
And Jen Carl, take us home.
All right. Quick note on that D'Angelo injury. That's going to make the match in Rochester really fun this week with Chantel Jones in one goal and Kelsey Weiss in the other goal, and people not sure who they're kicking to. Yeah, someone I'd like to see a little bit more of, I think, was one of the draft picks out of UCLA, Dahlkemper. I think I'd like to see a little bit more of her, just because I feel like her and Mewis both play in midfield. If they could connect a little bit more, again, both UCLA grads, they might be able to strengthen up their midfield a little bit more. But Mewis has been fantastic. D'Angelo, again, echoing everybody else, has been a phenomenal keeper. So I'm also glad that she'll only be out for 2 to 4 weeks, especially with shoulder. Those are never really fun to deal with. And hopefully, the return of Sydney Leroux and Whitney Engen from the World Cup, hopefully that'll help bring some veterans to the new crowd.
Yeah, and for me, there's a few other players, if we're just thinking about players that we can expect to make impact, if we'll look at that right now. Spencer, I think they said she really had a good season down in Australia where she scored 8 in 12 games. I'm thinking she'll get the opportunity to really shine. The rookie Lynn Williams, she was amazing at Pepperdine. 39 goals and 24 assists at Pepperdine. If she gets a chance, she might make a stake at this claim. So there's these young players. You got a lot of young players you can look for that could potentially have such a great season and actually, make a name for themselves in NWSL. And that's why this is such a good opportunity. Even if the team doesn't get results, these players are going to get so much experience that next year they'll be more used to playing alongside each other. And we'll have a few national teamers around them, Engen and LaRue, and they'll probably be a better side. Well, I guess we talked about really more Mewis and players who we probably expecting who've been standing out, and we expect to have a few impact. I guess what players we could say who we expect to have a great season. We can move on to that. Courtney, we'll start with you again.
I think some of the same players. I think that I mentioned before, I think we could probably expect them to have a great season. You know, again, with Mewis, I think, again, Edwards, Edmonds, you know, with D'Angelo when she comes back. I think that what we've seen so far is what we're going to see more of. I think just as time goes on, I think we're going to see them getting that more experience. And I think some of the players that we've highlighted and spoke about already are going to really be making things happen. I got a chance. I was at the home game against Kansas City and got to talk to Aaron Lyons after, and he was mentioning that they just really need time. If you notice, they had, you know, especially in that Kansas City game, but in other games as well, have had a wealth of chances that they haven't been able to convert on. And I think and I would agree, you know, just with some more time, I think they're going to start putting in a lot of those chances. So I would say the people that we talked about really, I think, are going to, you know, you mentioned Lynn Williams also, who has been just stellar. I think also defensively, Jaylene Hinkle has been great also. Again, I echo Dal Kemper. It seems like she might be playing more on the back line with the trade of Presley and things like that. But either way, defensive or midfield, she's a great player also. So I think some of the people that we've already mentioned, I think, are going to continue to have really solid seasons and really get a lot of good experience. And, you know, if they don't make things happen this season, I think in future years to come, they're going to be really a force to be reckoned with all of that once they start getting that experience in the professional setting.
Jackie?
Well, I think since their first game against the Reign, when they got, you know, just embarrassed, I think they've really continued to improve and build off those, you know, young players coming in. But like, you know, you guys said, Edwards, Mewis, Taylor, and then when you have LaRue and Engen come back, and with D'Angelo, I mean, there's a lot of talent right there. So, I mean, I think the future definitely is bright for the Flash.
Jen Hayes.
Well, pretty much what everyone else has been saying. Also, want to point out Kristen Hamilton, who was our 4th round draft pick last year and had the she unfortunately got hurt in the first preseason game, had a collision with the goalkeeper and tore ACL. Came back this year, got on, and has looked really well in the time that we've been able to see her.
Yeah, her and Edwards actually look pretty good. And Jen Carl, what do you think which players do you think will have a major impact for the team this year?
I think everybody we've already mentioned, obviously, they're going to be huge. But echoing one player you said, DJ, Jasmine Spencer. Again, I know Jasmine Spencer, and she's wicked fast. She's insane. So I'm going to really enjoy seeing her speed matched with Sydney LaRue's speed when they're both playing up front after Sid comes back from World Cup. I think that could equal a great season for both of them.
Yeah, I think, like you said, guys, we really did touch on all of them because they're such a young team where it's almost like where we're talking about the young players. Well, those are going to be the impact players for them this year. So I think there's really a lot to look forward to, especially as long as they stay together and grow together. They can really make an impact. I've been just so impressed, though, with Edmonds. I keep telling people, pay more attention to Edmonds. And Sam Mewis is impressed more. I remember a lot of people were actually down on her, to be honest, early in the season. She's looked great so far. She's looked better each game. So I think that's going to continue. With players like Edwards and Hamilton, they're going to continue to do well. And like I said, we'll see more. Hopefully we get to see more of Lynn Williams and see her grow as a player as well. All right, guys, it's time for predictions of where we think this team's going to land in the season. This is always the fun part. This is where you, as the viewer, get mad at me, the panelist, for no reason at all. Because, you know what, not everyone ends up in first. So I got to place people somewhere. So just deal with it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, now, let's go with you first, Jen Carl.
Oh, man, throw me under the bus first. All right.
Yeah, yep, you got to take it first. I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
Just say first place and go over with it.
No, that's going to be Washington Spirit, man. What are you talking about? You know, I hate to say this. I hate it. So I'll take the flack for it. I do see them at the bottom of the table. And it's by no fault of their own. It's just that they're such a young team with the World Cup. You know, they don't have the time to work as a fully cohesive unit. And then next year we have the Olympics too. So I mean, there's not enough time for them, I think, to really work as a cohesive unit, get enough time in there for the inexperienced players. I think in the future they absolutely will be a force to be reckoned with. I think they're going to work their way back up to the top of the table, but this year you see them at the bottom.
Well, that's one for the bottom. Let's go with you, Jen Hayes. Where's your team going to end up?
We're finishing first. I want to say that we're gonna rise above. We're gonna finish first. Reality is we're just too young and too inexperienced for a playoff spot. I think if we start clicking and ball starts getting rolling, we could probably finish 6th, 5th if we're really, really lucky. But probably gonna end up 6th or 7th.
All right, Jackie, it's your turn. Where's this team going to end up at?
I have them actually jumping Sky Blue and Boston in the standings by the end. So maybe I think 5th or 6th by the end of the season. So like I said, they're my dark horse. So hopefully they can help me out.
Wait a moment, Sky Blue? Why? Why are you picking on this team? You know, we already got enough to deal with. We already got enough. Why? Courtney?
I'm going to probably echo what everyone else is saying. I mean, not to pick on Sky Blue, but they're only a point behind Sky Blue. Sky Blue's got an extra game, extra game played right now. So the same with the Dash. They're a point behind the Dash. Same games played. And the Breakers also, it's very close down kind of the bottom of the table. So I do think that as they get more time, that as ugly as a game against Kansas City was the other day, that point is important to them. So I could see them finishing 6th or 7th. I want to say 6th. I definitely don't think they're going to be bottom of the table, though.
All right. Well, at least everyone did give pretty realistic. I thought someone was just going to say 4th, 3rd, just to be nice. Where do I have this team finishing? Well, it's actually about 5th or 7th, to be honest. That's where I look at them at, because I think there's going to be a point where they all kind of turn it on, these young players just really click and actually start getting results. Right now, they're not getting the results, but they're also learning how to play the professional game a bit more, seeing the speed of it and all that, and just learning how to be pros. Yeah, I can see them actually jumping Sky Blue, unfortunately, and I can see them probably. I know Boston's going to be real far down there, but it's going to be like 5th or 7th for them. 5th, they really had 5th would be a great season for them. 6th or 7th is about right where they should be at, so we'll see. Other than that, like I said, they're going to be a fun team to watch the whole season. I just want to see how these young players develop. All right, guys. I think we did a good job, but there's one little segment left, and Jen Hayes knows what this is because she's going to have her own segment during the World Cup for this. It's the rant time. As you know, let me put the guidelines for these rants. You can rant about anything. Those are the guidelines. So we're going to start with. We're going to save you last, Jen, since you said you had a Jen Hayes, because you had a fun. Jen Carl, what is anything that's been eating at you this weekend, today, yesterday, a few days ago?
No, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's my finals week, so, other than calculus, I haven't had too much eaten at me. Yeah, I think for me it was just, I'm going to go back to it, that Chantel Jones, Shea Groom moment that we all saw, we all know what happened, and everybody's been complaining about it since it happened. I think they both should have gotten sent off, personally, my opinion, as much as that sucks. But, it kind of is what it is. Sportsmanship is a big thing of mine, and there was a lot of unsportsmanlike conduct among the league this week that I could have done without, that being a prime example, but there were a couple of other little things too. So my rant is on sportsmanship. Go sportsmanship. It's a good thing. Follow through with it.
It's Courtney. Anything eating at you lately you want to get off your chest?
I mean, I'd like to be not sitting in the dark right now, but other than that, I can't. I can't really complain. Everything's pretty solid. I agree that kind of that whole Chantel Jones Shea Groom thing was kind of not great, but Nothing that I really want to kind of go off on a rant about. I'm pretty happy with.
She said everything's solid, and she's sitting in the dark. Her food's all spoiling and stuff. Get out of here, Jackie. What do you want? You got anything in your chest right now?
I'm trying to be positive. All right. We're not having power, so I'll take it.
Go on, Jackie.
I'm still mad about the fishlock handball, PK, whatever it was.
Here we go with this.
2 weeks ago.
God.
It was not a handball, and yeah, it was just, I'm still mad about it. So whoever the ref was, I disagree 100%. So, but Fishlock was like, okay, she took it, she, bullshit.
Okay, are the Rain fans over that yet? Are you guys over that?
I don't think they'll ever be over it.
And this is where my rant is. Now, thank you. You just made mine. Every week I bring a Rain fan on here. It seems like they talk about that red card. You know what, Rain fans? My beef is with you. And no, actually, I just want that thing to die. I don't want to talk about it anymore, that game. I hope that ends. But my actual issue is with, I guess, dealing with losing right now. I'm not taking too kindly to this right now.
I'm actually not sorry.
And as you can see, every panelist usually comes on here and just lets me have me. You guys need to get some W's on the board. And if you don't get any W's on the board, then we're going to just act like we don't know each other at the end of the season. We're going to break it off. We're going to end it like that. Just walk away from this. The relationship doesn't work for either of us, Scott. Okay. So we're going to have to end it like that. All right. And the Seattle fans, you keep pissing me off, you Seattle fans. But other than that, I'm good.
We're not all the same. I just.
No, it's funny though, because Karen said the same thing last week. She was like, "That handball." I was like, "God dang it."
Baseball. What?
Oh my God! You know what?
Okay, well, you told me to rant, so I mean, I.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's all good stuff. Good stuff.
Hey, Portland fans still bitch about the red card Unger got, and that was last season. So.
All right. Well, Jan, what do you want to? What's on your chest?
Oh my God, I had about a dozen things that I wanted to rant about. I could rant about the really shitty performance Villa gave this past weekend. I'm actually going to rant about a small section of the fan base that really pisses me off. It's that small section, the little tweeners that act like self-entitled jackasses. The ones that like to go to games, not to watch the game, but just so Alex Morgan can sign their little thing. And then when they don't get it signed, their parents go on Twitter and say, "Oh, you suck, you didn't sign my kid poster." Those and the ones that somehow find out where their players are staying, the hotel, and stalk them outside of it. Boundaries, people, get them.
Well, that was a rant.
I'm sorry. It's just been bugging me for like 2 years now, so I wanted to get it off my chest.
2 years that's been bugging you.
Yes!
For sake.
2 years! I've been wanting to rant about this stuff. Now I can.
You should have made your own YouTube show and just like ranted about it. For 2 years that's been on her chest. My God. And you can thank Off the Post for letting her get it off her chest. I hope there's nothing else that's bugging you. Like, I wouldn't want to do anything bad to you, like, 5 years down the road. You'd be thinking about it now. Like,
oh, come on. That's not that bad.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, I guess it's time to end the show. Because I'm kind of thirsty anyway, and I want to get something to eat. So, you girls have anything else to say, or was that good? The rants, you guys did actually pretty well in those rants. I just like to poke at you a little bit just to get you angry more. But no, it was good. It was good. That's it, guys. This was a longer episode because it had to be, because we talked about so much stuff. Next Sunday, well, this coming Sunday, will be at the Houston Dash Spotlight. Keep saying Flash now. That's going to be stuck in my head for next week. The Houston Dash Spotlight. We're actually going to have some special guests on the show. Who will they be? You'll have to tune in to find out. Other than that, this is Off the Post. My name's DJ Red Cat Fred Durst. This is my lovely panel. And we're going to call it a show. Nothing bad happened. Yay, except her electricity and her ice cream is melting and everything.